I'm impressed, but I'm not surprised. All right, welcome everybody to Barcode, the Science of Rap. It's your man Venom The Tigerdragon, aka Vin Diesel, and I want to take this time to pass some flowers out and give my thoughts on the latest Eminem record, "The Death of Slim Shady." Um, I don't know. It's I guess to start off, I'm gonna say that I haven't felt this excited about an album since the Eminem show, truthfully. Um, and there's been some milestones that he's had that I've felt similar excitement, but the Eminem show was the first time I remember like really being excited for an Eminem release. Um, the second time after that was Relapse. Um, it's one of those albums that I feel is I feel like it's slept on. I don't know how much people like really listen to it. If they just heard the contents of it and just were immediately turned off by the subject matter or not, but I really enjoyed the Relapse album. But this album, Slim Shady, or The Death of Slim Shady, I mean, he's doing here what I've come to expect him to do every album, which is raise his game. He's done it practically every release. I would say the album before this, the Music to Be Murdered By, that's probably the most plateau he's ever been. That's probably the most what you might consider mid. That's, he kind of like stalled out on that album between that and Kamikaze. Kamikaze was this kicking it to another gear, and Music to Be Murdered By kind of just stayed in that realm in terms of his technical skills and the songwriting. But The Death of Slim Shady, and I feel like this has really done something that I'm sure that he's kind of done in other albums, which is make a concept album. And it's kind of a lost art now to have like a running theme in an album. There aren't very many artists who still do that. Kendrick, of course, is one of them. J. Cole's done it. Tech Nine notoriously has done it. But I feel like Eminem really executed what it means to create a concept album with this, and that's really the most impressive part about it for me. Actually, no, it's not the most impressive part, but I do like respect it tremendously because it is like beautifully executed. It really feels like a journey. It feels like a film in musical form. It's cohesive from track to track. The only place it really falls off is, close to the end. It's like maybe four songs behind Guilty Conscious 2, which Guilty Conscious 2 is kind of like your ending and your, where you have credits roll and then you got your mid credits after that, and call the mid credits the last four tracks. But yeah, I gotta say, top to bottom, I can't say that there's a record I would skip. And I guess I should start off by saying that Houdini, I enjoyed Houdini when it first dropped. It was nostalgic, and that's pretty much what this whole album was going for. It went for nostalgia. And I'll get into like the deeper things of the whole thing, but I'll get into that later. But nostalgia, of course, is partly the centerpiece of the album. And yeah, Houdini, it fulfilled that. It felt a whole lot like, you know, those singles from those early albums, Slim Shady LP, the Marshall Mathers LP, and the Eminem Show Encore. Before he started dropping the R albums, it was extremely reminiscent of that, and there was lots of great callbacks to, you know, early tropes and gimmicks that he had in those early albums. But I get how a lot of people felt like it was a little cliche, and like, you know, it's ground that's been covered already. And then, of course, you know, one of the main weapons that the Eminem naysayers use against him is that he makes these gimmick songs, and, you know, they're corny and all this kind of thing. And I mean, if that's all the ammo that you got against them, then, you know, whatever. Like, I stopped wasting time like arguing with certain people about, you know, like, if that's not your taste, then, you know, fine. Like, I get that. Like, I'm a fan of Lil Dicky as well, and he's nothing like, you know, any traditional rap music that you hear. But he is an excellent rapper, and that's why I respect him. So, I mean, if Houdini is not, you know, your thing, I get it. But if that's the only thing you're going to use to discredit Eminem as a credible artist, I can't see having like a serious discussion with you about the whole thing. Because the rest of the project, I mean, even, man, what was the song called? The song was called Brand New Dance. It's along the same vein as but Houdini, where it's this gimmicky song, but, you know, of course, you know, the execution, and like me personally, I enjoyed Encore as well. Like, it's a lot of Eminem albums that people say they really don't like, and I love those albums. Like, I wouldn't say Encore is a classic, but it's definitely a very well made album to me. Or like, it had that, you know, that same kind of thematic feel, not quite as well as the Death of Slim Shady, but it had like a cohesive feel to it from beginning to end. And even like the gimmicky songs, they never felt out of place. You know, they felt like they were supposed to be there. So Brand New Dance, again, you know, it's callback. It feels like, you know, the era that it came from, and that's alluded to also with, I think, Guilty Conscience 2. The standout song, though, for me, and I'm pretty sure for everybody, is Fuel. It's Eminem and Jid on that one. And I've been meaning to check out Jid. I've heard great things about him, and I've heard songs that he has verses on, but I haven't really gone to just listen to Jid himself. And definitely impressed with him. As I listen to it, like, I'm listening to Jid go off, and I'm like, this is crazy. So what I've known Eminem for his entire career is, no matter who else is on the song with him, Eminem is gonna figure out a way to out-rap him. And I'm listening to Jid go off, and I'm like, how the fuck is Eminem gonna top this? And within, I would say, 8 to 12 bars, I can't remember exactly, but within 8 to 12 bars, he drops the P. Diddy line. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I shouldn't have doubted you. Of course you'll find a way. For me, moments like that are what make Eminem's continued presence so impressive to me, because I can't think of any other rapper who continues to elevate the same way Eminem has. And you could go down the whole list. You can go down the whole top 5 of any era of all time. Nobody has continue to improve or expand on their skill set the way Eminem has. There's no argument you can make otherwise, and that's something that you can't take from him. Nas came back after getting out of a record deal, and of course, like the overall quality of the music is probably the best it's ever been. Again, I'm super behind on music. This year really is the first time I'm really going out of my way to listen to music again. I've been in podcast land for the past few years. So the Death of Slim Shady and Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers are the first two albums really I've gone out of my way to listen to since I kind of like just got away from actually following music. And Eminem he's still finding ways to impress me. And then I continue to follow Eminem, not just because I enjoy the music. I also have followed him really as a student, as a rapper. Like I'm always looking to learn or be inspired to find new ways and new things to do with the art form. And Eminem rarely fails me in that regard. But I guess one of the other themes in the album is it's really come to like, what does it really mean to be controversial as a rapper today? Especially considering his history and how long he's been around, and all the talk about how relevant he is or isn't. It's really turning out to be a mixed bag, because on one hand you got people like myself who know the history, have been around and followed him, and we know what he does, we know what he's capable of, and we champion his skill set and the quality of his body of work. And then you got people who maybe didn't come up with him. You got people who just, they're really in the same boat as him of, trying to have the hot take just to have the hot take, where they'll dismiss, things about him. They'll dismiss his career. They'll dismiss his contributions, his, the controversies and his impact on the art form, on the culture, just because it's kind of cool to do, or just to be the one, the contrarian in the whole discourse. Of course, being younger, and maybe they really feel that way, and maybe they're just trying to be edgy like Slim Shady is, which that's a bit of irony in the whole thing, that the same people that are saying his gimmick is tired are actually probably engaging in the very same gimmick. Because in terms of the actual craft of this album, somehow he managed to execute the nostalgia, make it fresh, and make it meaningful. Like, it feels like a bunch of bullshit if you just take it at face value. He's just being, inflammatory for the sake of being inflammatory. But there's messages in the music, even down to the fact of the things that he attacks aren't things that, like as artists, and this is something that upsets me about the fact that I got away from rap for so long, because like the concept of having the alter ego, that's not a new concept. Like, it's been done a lot over the years. Cannabis is one that I've seen do it. LL Cool J, of course, I don't know how much he's made a distinction between the two, but there's LL Cool J and there's Jack the Ripper. Cannabis had Cannabis, and then there was Rip the Jacker. T.I., it was T.I., and it was Tip. Eminem is, it's Eminem, Marshall, Slim Shady. And the way he executes this this id ego super ego dynamic in this album, it really ties everything together where you question what the impact is of all these inflammatory things that he says or why he says it, and what does it mean to the overall culture. Does it even matter anymore? And this also goes to separating the artist from the art. There's this questioning of that if you really think about it. Yeah, just the way he executed it all and made it all so cohesive. Every song it says something. And it's not if you really if you really peel it back, he doesn't necessarily feel all these different ways really. These are things he says just to get a rise out of people, or just because it's it's contrarian or against the grain to say. And I guess I'm trying to think of a way not to to spoil the end of it if you haven't heard it yet. But it's questioning what any of that really means today, especially coming from him, because people haven't stopped doing it. Ironically enough, as they pass judgment on him for still doing it, like they're doing it too. But yeah, I guess what I really could get into is just the way he battles himself basically on Guilty Conscience 2. So it's Eminem versus Slim Shady basically, and that's probably the most cinematic and you could say that, but it's executed in a simplistic enough way where it's impactful. I'll say that. Very impactful the way he confronts himself, and he puts so much on the table. He low-key apologizes to a bunch of people that he's had beef with over the years. So it makes you question, what exactly was his headspace in those times when he was, either ending somebody's career or just running a campaign against artists and just leaving them in the dust in a way where it's it absolutely felt personal. It's what was his actual headspace in those times? And for him to come out now and say that really wasn't me, that was really Slim Shady the whole time. This monster I created to deal with the problems that I wouldn't want to deal with otherwise. That's a real interesting concept to grapple with in hindsight. Because like I say, he low-key apologized to all those people. Benzino, Cannabis, who else? A bunch of people, he mentions all those names as if if it were up to him, he wouldn't have beef with any of them. And that's an interesting idea because at the time he was on some anybody could get it shit, and very early on, most people didn't really want to fuck with that dude. I won't even say it's that nobody wanted to fuck with him, but people respected what he was capable of just on the merit of the skill, just on the merit of the art. There's no good reason as a great artist yourself that you go at him for no reason. Now, if you got some sort of issue with him personally, that's different. But nobody's ever gone at him who is actually respected as a lyricist. Like MGK is probably like the closest you get, and that's white on white crime. That's, you kind of expect that to happen eventually. But before that, like anybody who's ever had it in for Eminem, it was something personal, and they weren't that great. I mean, Limp Bizkit was a rap rock band, basically. Like, Fred Durst was never competing with Eminem. Everlast was never competing with Eminem. Dilated Peoples might have done alright, but nobody knew who the fuck they were, really. Cannabis, I don't know what the fuck happened to him, because he did respond at least once or twice, but I wouldn't say that they're memorable. And then, of course, there's Benzino. Oh, and Ja Rule, of course. Ja Rule, like, might barely make a top 3 of rappers who had a decent clash with Eminem and didn't get 100% smoked outside of just what happened to their careers. But other than that, you can't really name rappers who were actually good and respected that had a beef with Eminem. And maybe it's because Eminem respects them, because real recognize real. Famously, a whole lot of rappers, including The Game, who that nigga on some weird shit. He turns around and diss him later, but even like The Game, of all people, has shown tremendous respect for Eminem's skill set and talent. Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, LL Cool J, KRS-One, Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, Tech Nine, Hopsin. There's all kinds of these like top tier rappers who recognize Eminem, the level of skill, the level of talent, the level of contribution and influence that he's had on the industry and the art form, particularly the art form. That's really the most important thing to me. Nas, Jay-Z, all these people have shown respect for Eminem's contributions and what he's able to do. And it doesn't make sense for any of those people to have ever had a beef with Eminem. It really doesn't make sense for it to have ever happened. And that's why you don't get these, these clashes that you try to say he's never had. Those people aren't gonna go at him. What for? And I would wager, even if they did, personally, I would say the only person who has a remote chance of making it sound like a fight might be Joe Budden. Because he may not, rappity rap on Eminem's level, but his attack style is really a matter of substance. So that might be the only one who can like really give Eminem a fight. But I digress. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. Guilty Conscience 2, it wraps the whole thing up, at least that portion of the album, where he basically faces himself and he puts an end to Slim Shady, which, okay, so that's what I was trying to get to. So him ending Slim Shady, it almost feels like, this album was to get people what they've been asking for, it seems like, for the past several albums. Because, when you really, zoom out for the whole thing, Eminem hasn't gone back to that old sound in a long time. He's actually evolved. And that's what I was saying earlier. Like, he's one of the few artists who's like continually evolved and leveled up every release. On some metric, he's always improved himself or changed something. He's rarely gone back to, retread old ground. Subject matter wise, of course, it's it's light horrorcore, you could say, battle rap. Um, then of course, he has his personal joints. He's got something motivating, things that are introspective. But overall, of course, you can always expect battle rap, horrorcore, things of that nature. And people have been complaining, I would say, about the sound of the albums more so than, and I mean, partly his rapping, and that really brought it home for me. What people might mean. What song was it? He spreads that out. He gives you a lot of space between that. For the most part, it's this steady, slow to mid-tempo flow. And I'm sure that's refreshing for a lot of people. Because you can actually catch everything. You can hear what he's saying. And regardless of the subject matter, or, whether you agree with it or think it means anything, like, you hear it all. You hear all the different things he's doing, in the verses, in each bar. So I'm sure, something a lot of people appreciate, and that does make it a whole lot more accessible. And that's something I've been trying to make peace with and reconcile lately. Is like, how much of a rapper's skill should be judged on accessibility, because, you have this, and then you have what Lupe Fiasco was capable of. Like, that's a rabbit hole I have refused to go down for quite some time. I haven't listened to a Lupe Fiasco full project since The Cool. Lupe Fiasco was dangerous. Yeah, that nigga make your eyes bleed. And yeah, I'm gonna get to him, but yeah, I've been very hesitant to try before now. But a whole lot of his skill level is above the level of accessibility to a whole lot of people. And so it goes back to the Jay-Z quotes, like, just because you don't understand them, it don't mean that he's nice. And that's really easy to say when you don't understand them. So, like, between this thought, with Eminem's new project and, something like Lupe Fiasco overall, like, I really been deeply examining or considering the idea that, it's like, how many rappers over the years have I dismissed just because I didn't understand them? Like, was it really just saying bullshit, or was I really not getting it? So I have a whole lot to go back and re-examine. Just other rappers that, people swear by, that I haven't really given a chance because, I listened to it, gave it the once over, and like, nothing stuck out to me. But I guess one other thing, and this is probably the most central thing for me personally, as an artist, the way Guilty Conscious 2 ends, it also calls into question, for me, why still do this? For him, I've heard him say, his struggle has been to always be able to come up with something new. And of course, for him to be doing it as long as he's been doing it, and to still be improving. And yeah, I mean, that's probably it. Just, still be doing it, still be improving, because he does, tread old ground here and there in terms of content. Of course, battle rap is going to be battle rap. It's battle rappers who've made entire careers off of gun bars. I'm personally like not super impressed by that, but that's like their whole career, and people love them for it. So Eminem has been able to get by this whole time retreading battle rap horrorcore, and I still love it, of course, but it is kind of the same thing, and it is what it is, and that's fine. But to have gone this long doing it, what does this album mean for his career? But because he's said several times that like he's never going to stop rapping, he's going to have to go on the ground before he stops rapping. So that begs the question for me is like, what is he trying to say with this album, and why not stop now? I would personally say if he was to stop now, this would be going out on a high note. The last few songs after Guilty Conscience 2, I would say, you know, we could have probably done without them. Maybe like, you know, keep a couple of them. And maybe have them sprinkled in before Guilty Conscience 2. I think, well, there wouldn't have been ways to work them in story-wise, but yeah, we could have done without those, and the project would have been fine where it was at by the end of Guilty Conscience 2. And this project would be ending on a high note, I think, for him. Because he went back and gave people what they say they've been wanting this whole time because they didn't like what he's been doing. And people actually loved it. It was like, okay, yeah, you happy? Like, you know, he says that to Slim Shady, you know, at a certain time in the album. It's like, y'all happy now? You know, I gave you Slim Shady again. You know, I spent, you know, the past several projects trying to elevate, trying to give you substance, you know, give you higher levels of skill, you know, all these things that we seem to respect when other people do it. You know, if, you know, Andre 3000 come out with his, you know, one verse a year, if that, you know, we go crazy for that too. And somehow, you know, him being present this whole time while other people have been, you know, falling by the wayside, you know, Jay-Z, he stepped to the side shit a couple times, actually, 2 or 3 times. And 444, that's, you know, the last project that he put out, and he's been fairly quiet since then. Like, he's had maybe 2, maybe 3 more features since then. So, I mean, Jay's not invested in the pursuit of greatness anymore. I think he's satisfied with where he is, and, you know, chances are just busy doing other shit. And Eminem has consistently been present, whether people like it or not. And he's still as divisive and respected as he's ever been the entire time. So why not stop now? And then the question for me personally, for my personal investment, it's like, I've been wanting to come back to rapping, right? And Eminem has been kind of the bar I've been chasing. And I got lots of great influences. You know, it's Daylight, it's King Los, Joe Budden is one of them. Cannabis is one that, you know, really got me started. Like I said, I don't know what the hell he's doing now. I don't get it, but I have lots of great influences. But Eminem represents the high bar for me. So if he actually does go away now, why should I come back or continue to do it? Because I don't know, maybe on some level I've felt like it's like, okay, well, maybe someday I'll reach that level, and at least I'll know that I reached that level. And if he's still going, then I don't know, in some dream world, like, you know, we end up with a song together, some shit like that, and we just see, you know, who pulls it out. And, you know, of course, there's no killing Eminem on a song ever. And at a certain level of skill, like, there's rappers who just can't be killed. They're just that good. You don't kill rappers like that. Um, but just to be able to hear, what the final product will sound like, and to hear, the rapping at this high level, that was always my aspiration. So like, I want to rap at this level that a very short list of people can rap at. And I want to do it with somebody who can, who can match me or surpass me. And if they surpass me, it's just by a little bit. Like that would be satisfying for me. And if he goes away, it's like, for one, the bar's probably not gonna rise much more after him. It's gonna take a lot for the rest of the field to catch up with him technically, just in terms of accessibility, to be able to do what he does and it be accessible. Like I said, Lupe Fiasco, he is a different animal in the same beast. And yeah, like that's rapping in another dimension. That's him, that's daylight, that's another dimension of rapping. And that's so we can get to that later, but in terms of like, where there's no question what you're doing and that nobody's like fucking with that level, Eminem represents that level. So if he goes away, it's like, okay, well, what am I going to continue to do this for? Because I'm not gonna, or at least where I feel like I am right now, I'm not gonna do anything so mind blowing that he's gonna come to mind when they hear me. Maybe they'll think it's impressive on its own merits, but like nobody's gonna say, who will fuck Eminem up? Like nobody's gonna say that. If he goes away, then the legend is solidified, and people will kind of realize in hindsight, yeah, nobody was fucking with him. So yeah, that's a question that that I'm going to grapple with. Of course, I haven't made a final decision yet. I've been back to writing for the past several months, and just trying to get myself back in a good flow to actually start recording again and decide that I'm gonna actually follow through on everything. But yeah, that was the bigger implication that this album brought for me. It's like, where am I gonna stand now if I have any aspiration to come back to this? And that's really impactful, as older artists, I would say. Him being probably one of the greatest, of course. And as concept albums go, like I said, like it's like, this is how you do it, really. Like, the shit was a movie, and I really appreciate and enjoyed, and I thought it was excellent. It was literally cinematic. There was things he did, like just effect wise, and like with ad libs and all that stuff that made it so immersive. It's like, yeah, this was kind of an experience, and I really enjoyed it, front to back. I can't think of anything that I'd skip. Even the skits, like skits are back. Like I said, like, the way he crafted his album is a lost art. The concept album, it tells you a story. Like, people have gotten so used to cramming hits into a project that there's no real staying power in the music. Like, it might be hot it's hot in the club. I don't know how y'all get by just like getting like a never-ending stream of club hits. Like, who's spending this much time in the club? Like, who gives a fuck? I don't get it, but to each their own. But albums like this, they have staying power. They're gonna last. They're gonna be reviewed and studied and dissected. And these are the albums that last. And these are the albums that are kind of like artistic and cultural milestones. Is it one of Eminem's greatest albums? No. If I personally had to, like, you know, weigh it against other projects, of course Marshall Mathers LP is the high bar, but personally I wouldn't say that I enjoy it more than Eminem Show. Maybe Recovery, definitely Relapse. Like, that's probably one of my actual favorites. But it would be definitely an album that I would play again, for sure. It joins the ranks of those other albums that I would go back and listen to again, just to relive the experience. It's that good. It's that cohesive, beginning to end. Yeah, I wasn't going to get like too in depth, like, you know, song for song. I just really wanted to like get into the highlights of it, the things that I enjoy most. You know, I probably only been over like 2 or 3 actual songs, except for the last few after Guilty Conscience 2. There's not like a whole lot of actual songs. It's maybe like a total of, let's say, 7, 8 of them. If that, and you know, it's skits interspersed in between. So I did enjoy like other songs. I just can't remember the names of some of them, like Habit, Renaissance. Renaissance was basically an intro. Habit, Fuel, Guilty Conscience 2. Road Rage was one. I guess I would say that's not necessarily like a favorite, but I like it. It was, you know, it was a few songs, but if I just wanted to like play the album, like I wouldn't skip anything if I play it again, because it's really the journey that makes it worth it for me. But in the future, I plan to actually, you know, react and possibly break down the songs one by one. I would also like to, you know, do that with past albums, because for some reason, especially here in the Black community, y'all swear Black people don't listen to Eminem and there's nothing to relate to, or there's nothing to like take from it. And I would challenge y'all that is untrue. Now, if you just don't like feel the music or whatever, like if it's just like, if you just don't vibe with the feel of the music, you know, that's a matter of personal taste, fine. But you can't say that he don't be rapping his ass off and saying something. So yeah, that is slander that won't be tolerated on this side over here at the Barcode, the Science of Rap, because if anybody has mastered the science of rap, it's definitely Eminem. So yeah, I'm gonna get into that. I'm gonna get into some Lupe. I'm gonna circle back and touch on Drake and Kendrick. There's a whole lot to get to, and 2024 is this is the year of great hip hop again. This is a renaissance of rap, it feels like. And shout out to Kendrick for shifting the culture back again. It's very appreciated. It's very inspiring. So yeah, LL Cool J came back. Rakim got a new joint out. Yeah, this is well, I guess he's got a joint coming out. I don't know if it's out yet, but yeah, I'm gonna get in on fun, party until this house burned down, and I will catch up with y'all in the future. This has been the Barcode, the Science of Rap. I'm Venom The Tigerdragon, aka Vin Diesel, and I'll see y'all in the future. Deuces.